Members, including the member from Hamilton Centre, not to speak out when he does not have the floor. The honourable member from Edmonton Strathcona.
That was an appalling answer, and the Prime Minister needs to sanction Ben-Gvir and Netanyahu.
Hear, hear.
Mr. Speaker, 650,000 Albertans don't have a family doctor. In Edmonton, hospital wards are 155% overstocked. But instead of addressing this crisis, Danielle Smith and the Alberta Conservatives are going to Uberize the problem. So enough is enough. Can you tell us, when will Albertans be able to deserve the health care? When will this government finally stand up for public health care in this country?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I agree entirely that Conservative governments across this country have weakened our public health care system, and that is why we are continuing to demand investments in public health care, investments that will create more family doctors, that will reduce wait times. We've put money on the table for provinces willing to step up and actually deliver clear data and results to Canadians. We're going to continue to defend Canada's public health care system from those Conservative ideologues and premiers and politicians who want to weaken our healthcare system and not deliver for Canadians.
That's right.
L'honorable député de London West.
Mr. Speaker, my constituents have been working hard to pay their bills as global inflation has driven up the cost of living. The Conservative Party hates it when Canada is actually succeeding, and they continue to gaslight Canadians into thinking that our country is broken. Even though our government has been providing relief to Canadians through dental care, $10 a day child care, free diabetes medication, and much more. Can the Prime Minister update all Canadians today's good news and set the record straight?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I thank the member for London West for her question and for her hard work. Today, the Bank of Canada announced a big cut to interest rates by half a point, bringing interest rates down to 3.75%. Canada was the first G7 country to cut rates and is now the first to do so for a fourth time. All the Conservative leader has is his little performances because he knows that our responsible economic plan is working.
Right. L'honorable chef de l'opposition.
After 9 years of this Liberal government, the cost of housing in Quebec has skyrocketed. In the Saguenay-Lac-Saint-Jean region, the cost of a house has gone up by 76%. In Trois-Rivières, the cost has gone up by $190,000. And in Drummondville, the cost has gone up by $204,000. That's an increase of 124%. Meanwhile, what has the Prime Minister done? He has broken our system. He has printed billions and billions of dollars, and he's preventing new constructions. Will he do something about these policies? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, the Conservative leader is using these challenges that are facing Quebecers and all Canadians to feed his own political career, but he's not offering any solution to the problem. That's why we have invested $900 million with the government of Quebec to speed up housing construction. We will continue to work with municipalities and the province of Quebec to ensure that there is more housing, rentals, homes, affordable housing. We will continue to work hard while he picks fights with the mayors of Quebec City and Montreal. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition. I have already published my common sense plan, which is to offer incentives to municipalities to issue permits, cut red tape, free up lots for construction, and to cut taxes for those who are building housing throughout the country, while also controlling population growth so that it's under the growth in housing supply. That is my common sense plan. Will the Prime Minister let Quebecers choose that common sense plan with an election? The Honourable Prime Minister, we all know that the Leader of the Opposition doesn't care about expert opinion, and it's pretty obvious why. All housing and economic experts have looked at his plan and have said very openly that it is gobbledygook. There is nothing in his plan that will do anything about the housing crisis. Once again, he has just offered empty slogans, not real solutions. Quebecers, like all Canadians, deserve a government that will continue to invest in housing, to invest in their future, instead of simply offering cuts and austerity, which is all that the Conservative leader knows. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition. Well, the real experts here are people who build housing. Quebec's Builders Association have stated that my plan is the best to get housing built. It will encourage construction. It will encourage municipalities to cut red tape. And on the other hand, we see the results of 9 years of this Liberal government, where the cost of housing has gone up more sharply than in any other G7 country. And it's the second worst in the 36 OECD countries. Will the Prime Minister finally adopt a common sense plan like ours? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, this Conservative leader's approach has been to make personal attacks against the mayors of Montreal and Quebec City, insult the intelligence of Quebecers who have elected progressive municipal governments who are investing in affordable housing, who are investing in a better future. He is simply running around insulting people, trying to score political points. We work hard every day in partnership with municipalities and provinces to deliver concrete results. Housing, economic growth, results for everyone. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Canada had to issue an emergency rate cut to salvage a collapsing economy, an economy that has fallen more in the last 5 years than any other G7 country. Our GDP per capita is smaller today than it was a decade ago, while the American has grown by 18%. The gap between the Canada and U.S. per person GDP is now at its worst in a century, leading to homelessness, helplessness, and hunger on the streets. Why won't the Prime Minister call a carbon tax election so that we can fix the economy he broke?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Every now and then, Mr. Speaker, despite all his efforts, we see a little edge of the tinfoil hat peeking out once again from the Leader of the Opposition as he continues his attacks on the Bank of Canada, on the independence of our financial institutions. The reality is, Mr. Speaker, we have worked hard as a government to bring down inflation so that the Bank of Canada can bring down interest rates faster than just about any other country of our peer countries around the world, because we know that bringing down interest rates is what's going to help Canadians, even as we continue to invest in programs like dental and pharmacare and childcare that the Conservatives are voting against and delivering for Canadians.
L'honorable député de Belleuil-Champ.
The Honourable Member for Belleuil-Chambly. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister has said that the Bedford school case is a mere isolated anecdote, but it's been going on for 7 years. It's very well documented that there are cases of harassment, bullying, religious indoctrination. Does the Prime Minister know that 3 other schools may be involved? And does he know that some parents are withdrawing their children from schools because they are worried? They are worried about religious indoctrination and children being discouraged from obeying Quebec law. The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, as a former teacher, I can vouch for the fact that it is essential to protect our children, to protect the values that we care about. For example, freedom. I am very concerned about the reports mentioned by the leader of the Bloc Québécois. And we all expect that the competent authorities, in this case the province, will quickly address the issue to protect children under their care. The Honourable Member for Belleuil-Chambly. Mr. Speaker, when Adil Shalkawi gets involved in a situation, we know that someone responsible needs to take over. Even though the Prime Minister is pretending to show respect for provincial jurisdiction, well, much good may it do him. Here we see that there has been federal intervention against our secularism legislation, which involves interfering with Quebec jurisdiction. The Bloc Québécois has stated that it should be impossible to spread hate speech on religious grounds. The Right Honourable Prime Minister, Mr. Speaker, we know that the government of Quebec needs to take up its responsibility in the area of education and protect kids. It needs to ensure that all fundamental freedoms are protected. That's what Quebecers and all Canadians expect as well from the federal government. And that is why we are taking action to protect basic freedoms while also expecting Quebec to do its job to protect children in its schools.
The opposition.
After 9 years, this NDP Liberal Prime Minister is not worth the human misery that Canadians are suffering. There are now 1,400 homeless encampments in Ontario alone. The City of Toronto admits that it's run out of homeless shelter space and will have to turn people out into the snow throughout the forthcoming winter. There's a Facebook group called the Dumpster Diving Network, and people are lined up in the rain for hours for rotten potatoes. Is this the Great Depression?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we've all seen the cozy relationship that the Leader of the Opposition has with a number of Conservative premiers across the country. I would ask him to use his significant influence over those Conservative premiers to ask them to accept the money that the federal government is putting on the table to help with homeless encampments. A month ago, we asked each province and territory to partner with us to help find shelter for those living in encampments. Alberta, Ontario, and Saskatchewan have not yet formally responded to us to end encampments in their respective jurisdictions. I ask the Leader of the Opposition if he cares about this indeed, to stop playing politics and start up.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
The problem with that blame game is that, in fact, the worst homeless encampments are in NDP-governed British Columbia. In fact, what the Prime Minister has done is take the radical socialist policies that led to those encampments and those massive overdose crises nationwide. Take, for example, the drug dens. The Prime Minister continues to push taxpayer-funded opioids on the population, which has led to 47,000 overdose deaths, more than died in the Second World War as Canadians. Will he reverse these policies?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
I just have to pause for a moment on the incredible irony of watching the Leader of the Opposition in this House accuse anyone of playing the blame game. He has made his entire career as leader and 20 years as a parliamentarian about playing the blame game. It's about time he started taking responsibility for the members of his caucus and take responsibility for putting forward solutions that will actually help Canadians instead of offering cuts and pointing fingers and empty slogans.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
The NDP Liberal government is acting like, quote, a drug lord. Those are the words of Masha Krupp, a mother who lost her daughter to an overdose. That daughter, Larissa, was given taxpayer-funded opioids. Now her son is addicted to the same government-provided drugs. This radical policy, which this Prime Minister pioneered and expanded with the help of the NDP, has taken thousands of lives. Will he stop acting like, quote, a drug lord and put the money into treatment and recovery?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we're using all the tools at our disposal to save lives and keep communities safe for everyone. Meanwhile, Conservatives are choosing to use struggling people as political props to promote fear and spread misinformation. From the very beginning, we've been there to work on an evidence-based, compassionate and public safety approach. We have and always will be there to work with provinces and territories on approaches focused on saving lives and ending this crisis.
That's it.